were so real that I could feel your eagerness. And when you raised your lips for me to kiss, came the dawn, and you were gone. You were gone, gone, gone. I had too much to drink last night. Too much to drink. I'm not ready to face the light. I had too much to drink last night. Last night. I had too much to drink last night. Too much to drink. I'm not ready to face the light. I had too much to drink last night. Last night. Oh, too much to drink. Oh, too much to drink. Too much to drink last night. Oh, too much to drink. Oh, too much to drink. Oh, too much to drink. Last night your shadow fell upon my lonely room. I touched your golden hair and tasted your perfume. Your eyes were filled with love the way they used to be. Your gentle hand reached out to comfort me. Then came the dawn, and you were gone. You were gone, gone, gone. I had too much to drink last night. Too much to drink. I'm not ready to face the light. I had too much to drink last night. Last night. The room was empty as I staggered from my bed. I could not bear the image racing through my head. You were so real that I could feel your eagerness. And when you raised your lips for me to kiss, came the dawn, and you were gone. You were gone, gone, gone. I had too much to drink last night. Too much to drink. I'm not ready to face the light. I had too much to drink.
Okay, everybody, welcome to Psychedelic 60s with the two Johns and the Joe. We have John Jefferson and we have Joe Amoruso, myself, John Blacchino. This is part 2 of the series, and what can you say about this period of time? Amazing, right?
Exciting.
Exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of things going on. Now we're going to stay with the California psychedelic. Okay, there's a lot of other English and
That was the original.
That was the
California.
original. That's
Yeah.
where California came from. We'll play a little Quicksilver. We'll play a little, Doors. Vanilla Fudge. Was Vanilla Fudge from California?
New York.
New York, right.
What, in New Jersey?
Well, technically, but they hung out in Long Island.
Right. They hung out in Long Island. So let's talk a little bit about one of my favorite groups is Quicksilver. And where did they come from?
San Francisco.
San Francisco.
When we talk about California, we're talking about San Francisco. Haight-Ashbury, Marin County, that's where everybody is.
Yeah. L.A. was nowhere
No.
at that time. It was San Francisco.
And it was all about, even bigger than the music scene, it was about the intellectual literary scene. You have had different authors and beat poets and things like that you don't have in Los Angeles.
Right.
LA is, still Hollywood. LA is just sitting there, waiting to happen. When the Doors come out, then LA explodes, but not yet.
Many of the beat poets from New York migrated to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Right. One of the, but San Francisco was the center, right? It was
Absolutely.
the center of
Everybody
it,
gravitated to San
everything,
Francisco.
And you had the airplane there.
Mm-hmm.
You had Quicksilver. You had
Moby Grape.
The Electric Prunes.
Right. Strawberry Alarm Clock.
Strawberry
All those.
Alarm
They're all
Clock,
from there.
Trying to think of another group, but they were all that. And that, of course, the Summer of Love, 1967, was the focus of all that, the center of all that. And, so let's go to a song, all right? And this is called, from Quicksilver, Song for Frisco, all right? And let's listen to a little of it, okay? Another song by them called What About Me? And then we'll come back.
You poisoned my sweet water. You cut down my green trees. The food you fed my children was the cause of their disease. My world is slowly falling down, and the air's not good to breathe. And those of us who care enough, we have to do something. What you gonna do about me? What you gonna do about me? Your newspapers, they just put you on. They never tell you the whole story. They just put your young ideas down. I was wondering, could this be the end of their pride and glory? What you gonna do about me? What you gonna do about me?
Okay, we're back. That was the messenger service and Quicksilver. And let's talk a little bit more about the time, 66, 67. How did this all come about? What was going on?
Vietnam.
Vietnam, okay.
Draft was in full swing. The big deal about Vietnam is that the young people didn't grow up with the same sense of values that the the parents' generation, the greatest generation of the 40s, there wasn't this idea of national service or serving a cause bigger than yourself. And on top of that, the leadership failed in setting a clear explanation for the question, what's so important about Vietnam?
Right.
And it's a different story when you're talking about Germany. It makes sense. When you're talking about Japan and Pearl Harbor, it makes sense.
Right.
But Vietnam, where's that?
Yeah,
Exactly.
What's that all about?
There was no role model for the younger generation to emulate. Like in the 40s, they had FDR. The new leadership, people couldn't agree with what they were doing, so they kind of tuned out, as they said.
On top of that, you also have this decade with assassinations. It seems like every so often somebody that you love and that you respect gets killed.
Right.
By who? We don't know. There's all these conspiracy theories. The worst thing in the world is to have a question that you then have to answer yourself.
Right.
Why did JFK get killed? Why did RFK get killed? Why did Martin Luther King get killed? When you're not satisfied with the answers and you invent your own answer, you invent conspiracies. It was this or this or this. And you develop this big, massive turnoff from the system. You become anti-establishment.
So they turned a lot of these concepts into music, which was fabulous.
Turn on, tune in, drop out. Perfect.
Timothy Leary.
Yeah. This is the perfect,
And plus, this was the spoiled generation. This was the generation that got everything. And they TV, radio, they were living a better life than their parents. And
yeah, but they didn't see it that way. They didn't see it that way. They didn't think it was a bad.
Yeah.
They thought they were being the opposite of what their parents wanted. They wanted something completely different.
Right.
So it's not that they saw themselves as spoiled. It's just we don't want what you want us to have.
Right. So
that's the original impetus for the punk spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever you say is okay, I say is not.
Yeah.
So you tell me not to do it, I'm going to do it twice.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot going on.
Well, the youth, the youth is you tell them not to do it, they're going to do it.
Right.
It's a natural rebellion.
Right.
Plus, they were told to fight an enemy that they really didn't first know about, and two, they had really no animosity to, and three, their country wasn't being threatened. Unlike World War II, where it was obviously we had to get in there, or we could face speaking German.
As much as we know, two historians sitting here talking about Vietnam, it's difficult to argue that Vietnam is as important as Germany or as important as Japan. The political leadership, starting with Eisenhower, going through JFK, going through LBJ, and even Nixon, had always consistently failed in explaining what the big deal is. Nobody ever came out and said, this is why communism is so bad. Now this is why we have to go here and shed American blood and send American treasure for this thing, to stop the spread of communism. Nobody explained that. Well, if they had, it might be a whole different story.
Okay, we're going to go to another song called Reverberation by the 13th Floor. I never heard the group. I heard it.
Rocky Erickson, one of the great unsung heroes of the psychedelic era.
Okay.
This band is definitely
out there.
Out there.
At least, yeah.
All right, let's hear Reverberation, and this is by the 13th Floor.
You try
far as you can
All
go.
right, we're back. That was
13th floor elevators.
Searching for elevators, and by the 13th floor, I never heard of them. Sounds a lot like Jefferson Airplane.
Better.
A lot better.
Better.
But better.
Yeah, definitely. He sings better than Grace Slick.
Yeah, okay.
Any day.
Yeah. So, but it has that same
psychedelic.
But that kind of driving.
These guys start out from Austin, Texas.
Exactly.
They're tremendously influenced by this idea of escaping to a new consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So they get heavily involved in chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
And they are the reason why this is called acid rock.
Mm-hmm.
And another great guitarist who was influenced by the 13th floor elevators, who originally was with a band called the Moving Sidewalks, was Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top.
Yeah.
He emulated that style, that guitar. And you could see it in the first couple of albums, ZZ Top, the earlier ones, that it has a lot of that emulation of the 13th floor elevator. Very good.
Yeah.
You ever hear of a group called Spirit?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
Got a Line on You.
Yeah, I played with them once.
Did you?
I was like, we were in Englewood or something, and we were.
Was Jack Cassidy the bald drummer there?
Yeah, and the
absolutely.
other guy that actually lost his life saving his son.
Who was that?
I forget his first name. But,
was it the singer or?
It was the singer.
Jay Ferguson.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he saved his son, but he perished. You know, but that was a really good group. They just were mismanaged. They were not. They
made it big in California.
Yeah.
They were like superstars, but in New York it was like, okay, one song and that's it.
And they were invited to Woodstock, but they did not.
They didn't go.
Accept.
Big mistake.
Big mistake.
A big mistake. They would have been a household name right now.
Would. Anybody that played in Woodstock, their career either got boosted or they became somebody.
Even if they didn't show up in the original movie, because there was a lot of cutting pieces of celluloid.
A 3-hour film out of a 3-day story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They would have made it big.
Yeah.
One of the better guitarists of the California scene was Randy California. That's not his real name. He just called himself Randy California. But he was very good. He was like a Hendrix type.
Yeah. So, mismanaged, but it was a really good group.
Very good.
Got a Line on Me. Forget what.
Dr. Sardonicus is one of their better albums.
Now I can't even remember. There's another
Fresh Garbage. Great stuff.
There was some good, really good stuff.
They even had an anthem for Nixon. Poor Richard. What a great song it was. It really was good.
Nature's Way.
Nature's Way, very good.
That was a good song. Yeah. So, all right, that takes us to Moby Grape.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we do not have Omaha, which was their big hit.
That's okay.
But we have About Time, Wild Oats Moan, or Ooh Mama Ooh? Any one of those good.
If you had Jerry's Blues, it would be Miller's Blues would be even better. But that's any one of those are fine.
Let me see if I have. Let me put Moby Grape on my search page here and see if we have. What was the name I'm looking for?
Miller's Blues.
Miller's Blues. Moby Grape, Miller's Blues.
One of their best.
No, I do not have Miller's Blues, but let's play Wild Oats Moan, all right?
Fine.
Let's see where that goes.
Time all day, don't know where
That song doesn't do anything for me, but anyway, not very psychedelic, but I guess it was all right.
But you got to realize that a lot of these bands didn't start off playing psychedelic music. They played the blues, and you could see a lot of blues influences.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, Miller's Blues is almost like Muddy Waters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of psychedelic came from the blues, and they just electrified it.
Muddy Waters did it.
And you know,
there's a thing about having a certain approach. Like psychedelic isn't a sound; it's an approach to a sound.
Yeah.
You know, it's you can kind of hear a little bit of the psychedelic feel in the crowdedness of the music.
Right.
And it sounds like there's 10 people playing instruments on the song. That's a psychedelic thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where the blues might be 3 guys sitting together. You know, blues is about the space between them.
How did they get the psychedelic sound? They slowed it down and maybe reverberated it. And
there was a lot of gadgets
used. That's a Vanilla Fudge thing. We're slowing it down, making a 45 to a 33, so to speak.
Right.
But these other things is just taking what you expect, turning it upside down.
Right.
You know, you expect to hear the space between the notes.
Right.
Well, with a song like this, you don't.
Yeah.
This is just full tilt.
Right.
You know, it's more boogie than it is blues.
Reverb and fuzz. You know, a lot of gadgets were used, but it was good anyway.
At the same time, there are a lot of popular. Look at Billboard's top 20, and you hear a lot of country, a lot of folk, lots of acoustic music. Lots of pretty sounding stuff. And this stuff doesn't sound pretty. It doesn't have to be fuzzed out, it doesn't have to have, odd gimmicks like pitch shifters, but it's just dirty compared to what the mainstream is.
Yeah, there's very, very, very cleaning up of the music. Right. They don't tweak it. As they played it, that's what went on the record, which I like about it, which is exactly the punk sound.
There are a lot of great bands that played shows that were disasters.
Right. Because
they had fallen into the Led Zeppelin thing.
That's right.
Led Zeppelin always had this stigma that they were a thin band live because Jimmy Page had a guitar army in the studio, 12 guitars on Kashmir, 15 guitars on Achilles' Last Stand, and it sounds like one guy when he's playing live. Yeah. These guys didn't have that trouble. They didn't have 50 overdubs. They didn't have the technology for it either. They had maybe a 4-track, with a small 2-track mixing. Yeah. They were like the Beatles. They couldn't afford to have 16 tracks. They didn't have a mixer the size of a mattress like Zeppelin did when they did Physical Graffiti.
Yeah, the big bands always had the money to have these overproduced albums. The unknown bands, they said, we don't want that kind of music. We want to stay with, as we play it, that's what goes on the record.
Yeah, we'll sound just pretty much live as we sound in the recording studio.
Because when you listen to Moby Grape live and on the album, it goes, my God, it's like the same thing. Yeah. That's how clean it was.
Right.
Yeah. There are 2 different kinds of music. There's music for money, music for the audience. And you have your ballads and your doo-wop stuff. Then you have music for musicians. Mm-hmm. And that's where the psychedelic comes into play. Mm-hmm. People kind of got sucked into it a little bit, in a roundabout way, but it didn't start out as this is a way to make money, because these guys were broke for years. Many of them, if they're still alive, are still broke.
They're still broke, exactly, because they didn't make the money after the Led Zeppelin era. They didn't make that money.
No, but they also had bad management, like John was saying before about Spirit. It's a shame that the 60s and 70s are wrought with act after act after act that was fleeced and totally bamboozled.
Well, even the Beatles and the Stones didn't really make any money until late 60s. I mean, they were just breaking even. I read the book by Pete Townsend, and they didn't make any money until Woodstock.
Yeah, but the thing with the Who is they didn't realize they were losing money because they were fueled with drugs. Of course they don't know.
Yeah. It also doesn't help.
A lot of the groups were too. I mean, it was just the Who.
A lot of their money they spent replacing their instruments.
But they got ripped off. They didn't have good management. Woodstock again made the Who. I mean, he even said that in the book that they just went to another whole different level after that. But
it reminds me of the phrase or the old adage that you get what you pay for. Right. And Led Zeppelin hardly ever got ripped off, if ever, because they had Peter Grant.
Right.
And he was treated as a fifth equal.
Mhm.
Right.
So everybody made 20%.
He was ruthless.
There was no quarrel about money, even though the guy didn't play an instrument.
Right.
He was still so important to the organization
Right.
they gave him an equal fifth.
Right.
So he protected them.
Yeah. And a lot of these other groups did not have it. Even the Beatles had to form their own recording company, Apple,
Apple?
because Capitol was ripping them
Yeah,
off.
but even Apple ripped them off.
Apple ripped them off too. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So, all right. Here
Say
is a
stick to what you
song
know.
by the Doors, L.A. group. Though it's one of my favorite songs called "My Eyes Have Seen You."
My eyes have seen you. My eyes have seen you. My eyes have seen you. Stand at your door. Meet inside. Show me some more. Show me some more. Show me some more. My eyes have seen you. My eyes have seen you. My eyes have seen you. Turn and stare. Fix your hair. Move upstairs. Move upstairs. Move upstairs. My eyes have seen you. My eyes have seen you. My eyes have seen you. Free from disguise. Guessing on the city under television skies. Television skies. Television skies. My eyes have seen you. My eyes have seen you. Eyes have seen you looking for a crack of soul. Memory run your alley on that endless road. 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 Endless road.
Okay, that's it for our psychedelic excursion here with Joe Amoruso, John Jefferson, me, Mr. P, John Placchino, and we're going to come back hopefully next week and talk a little bit more. This is an
Absolutely,
expansive genre, and I want to
Still
thank you.
growing.
Still
There's
growing.
still a lot of bands all
Yeah.
over the place that play psychedelic music.
Right. So,
Good music never goes away, it just gets hidden by other stuff.
right. Okay, guys.
Thank you.
you.
Thanks.
See you next week.